always wondered to myself, is there something that helps the entrepreneurs that succeed that they have, which other entrepreneurs don't? Is it something they know? Is it how they run their businesses? Is it the people they hire? Is it where they went to school? Is it their socialization, their background, their education, their mental spaces? What is it that makes the entrepreneur succeed? Welcome to my masterclasses, where I share with you everything you need to know about how to become a high-growth, high-scale entrepreneur. I'm joined by guests. We break down the myths, the ideas, the myths, the legends, everything you need to know to become a high-growth entrepreneur. Warning, this is the High Performance Zone. You know, when I was doing my MBA, I had a professor. And I'll never forget, he said something to me. He said, the next time you read a newspaper article, ask yourself, what was the article that they didn't want to write, so they wrote this one? Because there was an article that wasn't published, but they sacrificed it and said, no, you write this one, not this one. Yeah? It sounds very conspiratorial, but it's true. Now let me just, as a case study, let me prove it to you very quickly. If you want today to start an insurance industry, an insurance business, I don't know how many of you, but I come from a family where I've got a person who works in the insurance industry as a broker. Most of us here have family members who worked in the insurance industry as brokers, right? Selling a product, life cover, funeral policy. We are the biggest consumers of the product. Down there at retail, who buys? Us. We are the biggest consumers of the product. How many black-owned insurance companies do you know listed on the stock exchange today? How is that possible? Like, just think about it. The law says, for you to get the document to apply for an insurance license, the law says, the last time I checked, and I speak under correction, but the law read that for you to get the document to apply for the license to run an insurance company, you needed 100 million rand in holdings, in cash. You then paid 10 million to get the document to apply. That's to get the document to apply. Then you apply. Then there's a long process you go through. It takes about 3 to 5 years before they grant you the license. So that at the end of that period, you can originate a product and sell it. You can become an MMI, a Santam, a Sanlam, a Discovery. You can originate the product to sell. Now, before we bemoan it, you know, when Adrian Gore started Discovery, he had to pass the same test. He had to raise that amount of money. Okay, so I don't want you to walk away from here thinking this is about race. It isn't. It's just about understanding the barriers that will not allow you to succeed. You're not succeeding, not because you're not able to succeed. It's just the way the system is set up. Make sense? Guys, in every industry, there's a thick blue line there. That's why 55 million South Africans, 79% of us Black African, 88% of us Black by the broad definition. How many banks? How many retail companies? How many? Michael Jordan, who just started Bank Zero, was telling me the process they have had to go through to start Bank Zero. And even Michael Jordan, who was F&B CEO, has had to go through exactly the same process to start a bank. And I think he's been busy with it now for 5 years, but the bank is still not running. How many of you have money to finance a business for 5 years without making a cent? There you go. Hey, Gunzin. You guys should have listened when Jacob said, in there. Lentela esi hambayo in there. Right. Cool, a few more questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, how are you?
Good.
The question that I want to ask, I think you need clarity with regards to manufacturing industry.
Yes.
Yes. How do we penetrate the manufacturing industry? How do we start in terms of saying now this is where we want to get in? Because
who's we?
Us.
Who's us? Okay.
We actually want to get into business and do.
We actually want to get into business and do trade or start something.
Sure.
Manufacture something.
Sure.
Say let me speak for myself.
Sure.
Say, the challenge that I see or that I have is the buildings are owned by companies. Mm-hmm. And let me make an example. They own a storage facility somewhere in Ghana. I want to go there and bring a certain company or speak to a certain company so that I can start producing something from there.
Sure.
But now the challenge is they say they can't give that to me because now I don't have 10 million.
Yes.
So how do I get into that kind of market, or where do I start? What would you recommend?
Well, let's go back to the beginning. Everybody with a notepad and paper, write this question down. Most important question, guys, you must answer for yourself. Whether you're already in business, thinking about business, you've been running a business, it's succeeding, it's not succeeding, this is consistently the question you must answer for yourself. It's a question I try to answer for myself every single day. Sometimes the answer is I don't know. Sometimes the answer is what I thought the answer was is no longer the answer. Okay. What problem are you solving? Because a lot of us who think we are entrepreneurs are actually not really. We are what I call me too businesses. I have an events company. Me too. I supply stationery. Me too. Yeah? We're not really entrepreneurs. We're me too businesses. And it's not bad. Remember that we are only as wise as our levels of exposure. So the more things you're exposed to, the more broad your worldview, the more things you will see that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. It's why, by the way, I think the most important thing you can ever invest in as an entrepreneur and as a human being are two things: education and travel. Education will teach you to see things you wouldn't always see. Travel will show you things you had never considered. Right. But if you don't broaden your worldview, then you will get into this trap of starting Me Too businesses. Is that okay? Now, you can start with a Me Too business. I started with a Me Too business. There's nothing wrong with Me Too businesses. But sooner or later, you're going to have to figure out how your business is unique. And the question you're going to have to answer for yourself is, what problem are you solving? This is important because, and I want to answer your question by saying this, so you don't have the right to anything. The minute you become a business person, the idea that you have the right must leave your mind. You don't have the right. At best, you're hoping for the opportunity, and because you want to succeed, you have created upon yourself the obligation, and you want to approach it with a sense of humility. But you don't have the right. Yeah? So when the way you phrased the question was, I see a building, it's owned by X, I would like to use that building, but I'm being told I need X amount of money. And my answer to that is, what's wrong with that? The owner of the building has the full right to tell you what are the terms for you to use their building. In the same as in 10 years' time, God willing, touch wood, that building is yours. When I come to you and I say I'd like to use your building, I think you're going to determine for me what are the terms for me to use your building. Make sense? So this is important for us to get our narrative right. You don't have the right, guys. You don't have the right. And I think it's important for us to pause on this because much of our national discourse has been wrong. And okay, I don't want to be misunderstood. We created a narrative discourse of free housing for all. Then we said free education for all. And free this and free that. Except month end, somebody has to pay for that which is free. And the economics of it are not very complex. If you build a free house, who's building it? A contractor. Month end, must that contractor be paid? Yes. Because if that contractor happens to be anybody, whether they are black or white, they have staff that must be employed, who must be paid. So this free, where does it start if the cost to construct is paid for? They will argue from a macroeconomic perspective that the state should fund it. And I don't want to have a long mesoeconomic debate here. That's not the point of our masterclass. But in your mind, when you become an entrepreneur, free, right, must leave your head. You must presuppose you're going to pay for everything you do. This masterclass, how much did you guys pay for this? I'm wondering, how much did you pay? Free? It's free, right? Right, so the masterclass is free. Who thinks that the electricity in this room is free? No? Yeah. What about the time of the very capable and amazing technical people who are recording and streaming and taking pictures and the rest of it? Think that's free? So I'm here, right? My whole team is here. Who thinks that's free? Make sense? What you're not aware of is that I have a business model. You just can't see it. But I've got a revenue model. It's going to make me more money than you can imagine. But I've got one in my mind. Yeah? What I've worked out is I'm working on a model called freemium. I'm doing in effect what Facebook does. Your Facebook account is free, or so you think. It's not really. Yeah? See, I just figured out a different way of how to do these things. Because for me, it's about empowering and sharing. But sooner or later, somebody's going to have to pay the piper. So to answer your question, you can break into any industry. You just got to approach it right. So what I would do if I was you is I would go to them and I would try and find a way where they can meet you halfway rather than have a fiduciary, pecuniary conversation. Hey guys, I'm a business. I'd like to use your business. Can we do some business? I wouldn't do it that way. I'd approach it at a human level and I'd go to them and say, this is what I want to do. My mind is kind of fuzzy. Can we work together to try and find a way to do it? Does that make sense? I want to take the next question, but just to finish with your question for a minute. So if you guys ever go on YouTube and you watch our first masterclass, have you seen it? Yeah. There must have been what, maybe 10, 15 people in the room? And they're all sitting on like camp chairs, right? Yeah. Right. So I want to say this to you. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to start. Okay. In your mind, what the business you're building, you must see in your mind all the time. Yeah. But don't think where you're starting is where you're going to be. So allow you, just start. You know, it's like just with the small thing, do that one. And maybe for them it's not renting out the whole building, maybe it's just giving you a floor. Okay, so do it that way. Start scrappy. And it's so important, I just want to allow me to reinforce this point. It's so important to start scrappy because you can make all the mistakes with a business that's this big. So that when it's this big, you know exactly what the problems are. Do you know what I mean? There's some, I'm sure you guys would have seen it online, for those of you who watch the masterclasses. There's some masterclasses where the video quality is terrible. You can barely hear the stuff. Yeah. But we did it. You understand? Like we did it, right? You know, and then in a year or two's time, people go, whoa, these are amazing. Yeah, but you didn't see the beginning. Remember, only you see the beginning. You know, only you and a few early adopters, they see the beginning. Most people usually come in at the end. Okay, there was a question here. Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Benny, and then this is my business partner. So actually,
his name is my business partner? Oh, he is your business partner? Yes. Oh, okay, cool.
So what we do actually, we move students here. So here on campus, like we have a food court right there.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Yes. So what we do actually, we just get our food from the food court to every rest. And then sometimes we go like off campus to deliver for some of our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So what is happening here is I can say like, because of people they come and order through WhatsApp. So you just tell us like, for example, let's say like you just come and say like, okay, can I please get let's say like 20 bucks sheets, right? And then if you choose the only thing you're gonna pay is gonna be 30 bucks, which means 10 rands extra. That is like the fee, delivery fee. So that's what we do. So even like our customers is students and staff members. Yes. So what we do actually, like each and every day, actually say we get maybe 30 orders, which means we can make 300 a day, and we can make 1.8 a week, and 7,200.
Yeah, 7.2 a month. I got it.
Yes. So which means like our costs actually come from packaging, which is those kind of sheets, and then packaging, and then because we develop with bikes, that's what we do. And then like
When you say bikes, do you mean motorized bikes or you mean bicycles?
bicycle.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we do. So and then we have some kind of measurements. All the costs actually they cost 5,335. So which means like we can say like our profit a month it should be 1.869.
Got you?
Yes. So which means I can say like maybe a year our profit can be like 18,000.
I got the maths.
Okay, other thing. So like those restaurants that we deliver for. So the only thing that is happening is like the only profit that we get from I can say those 10 rents from delivery fee. That's the only our profit.
Got you.
And we should still gonna pay like every cost and then some kind of like our employees.
Got you.
That are helping us.
Yeah.
So the problem is those restaurants owners.
Yeah.
Because like maybe it's because they don't trust us because like maybe it's because they're not from South Africa. We don't care about them. But we are here for their business.
Okay, let him finish.
So the thing is like I'm just asking you if like you can give us an advice like how do we ask them so that maybe we can get at least 8% commission of every product that we selling and we deliver it. Because like it's like we getting some customers for them so that they can come and then buy stuff from them.
Yeah, what question do you think I'm going to ask you? Thank you. Please ask it. Give her the mic so she can ask you the question. Give her the mic. Give her the mic. So important. Give her the mic. I want everybody to hear it. Ask him.
Okay, what problem are you solving?
Thank you. Now you may answer.
Okay, the problem is, so because like we see like the students on campus. Let's say for example, the weather is not good or maybe they are too busy.
No, I understand.
They should leave, they don't want to leave what they're doing.
Sure.
So we just tell them like, okay, here's the thing. You can just order food and then we can come to you and we give it to you.
Got you.
All right.
Sitting down, not doing anything. Can I tell you what I would do now? It's what I would do. I'm not sure it would work, but can I offer a solution? Yeah. So what you're doing is what we call an additive business. In other words, that the base of your business is that the revenues you generate are additive to their current revenues. Simply, if they make R1, you are allowing them to make 10 cents more. That's the basic economics of your business. Okay, so the conversation you want to have with them is an additive conversation. Here's what that means. Presuppose that I don't buy from you, okay? It means you don't get to supply from the people who I'm delivering to, which means you're losing revenue. Make sense? But you have to remember that their margins are also thin. I don't know what their margins are, but if I was running a catering business at a university, you guys, for those of you who are here as our students, are notoriously price sensitive. I remember when I was a student, you buy a Chelsea bun because it's sweet and it's got carbs, sugar, and a bit of carbs. It's going to fill up your tummy. You're going to have some energy for the next lecture class, right? So you're notoriously price sensitive. So, which means that if the market is price sensitive, they've had to price to get the market to buy. So they're not selling at Woolworths prices. So when you go to them, you can't negotiate a percentage that's at Woolworths prices. You're going to have to be a bit more, not submissive, but a bit more. You're going to have to be a bit more judicious. You're just going to have to think it through and just make sure that it makes sense in your head, right? So that's the first thing to say. Then the second thing to say is maybe what you should do is starve them of the revenues of your customers.
Because the only thing, where's my thing? Like each and every week, almost let's say, for example, I don't want to name like those residents. I can say let's say 3 of them, which means the revenues that we're doing actually for them. Like maybe the total of maybe if the 3 machines can be 9,000.
Yeah.
Actually 3,000 for each and every restaurant.
Yeah.
In a week.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But like I said, you're not hearing me. Your business is additive. What you're failing to understand is it doesn't matter the revenues you make if you can't prove that those revenues would come only from you. They're not giving you the margin you want because they're saying even if you didn't buy, these people would buy anyway. Does it make sense? That's what I'm saying. Your business is additive. So you've got to figure out a way of having the conversation with them to help them understand that those revenues come from you. That without you, they would lose those revenues. And I'm saying to you that what you have to do is to deprive them of those revenues. So go through a week where you don't do deliveries just for one of them. Let them feel the pain. Do for all the other ones. Boycott one. And let that one feel the pain of you not, and then let them come to you and say, why are you not buying from me this week? Say, oh, I must buy from you now. Oh, but you said you don't need my business. Okay, so I'll tell you what, I'll buy from you, but I want you to give me 5% of everything I buy. And or what you need is called the domino effect. You just need one to say yes to 5%. Then you go to all the other ones. And so Mona Ole is giving me 5%. So I'm going to start suggesting to my customers their menu unless all of you give me 5%. That's it.